What is up? What is up, family? We are back with another episode of 7 Generations Black. Shay J is on her way, y'all. She's on her way. In the meantime, I'm not going to try and give y'all the whole spill because I just can't do it like Shay, but Theo here is going to hit us with the red pill alert as we welcome y'all to come on in. Make sure that you subscribe. Make sure that you hit that bell. We're getting ready to start talking about some stuff. So go ahead, Theo. Roll us in.
For sure. Y'all, this is 7 Generations Black, and we got to give you this red pill alert. This is your last chance. After this, there's no turning back. You can take the blue pill, your opportunity to stop listening and tune out. If you do, the story ends, and you wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. However, if you take the 7 Generations red pill, you stay here with us in this liberatory discussion, and we show you just how deep the rabbit hole goes. The choice is yours. It's always yours. Welcome to 7 Generations Black. Look at that shit. Niggas can't see
I know
me.
Theo does it every time.
Y'all can't see me with this. I got all these bouncy balls from my baby's little baby castle. I got plenty of these.
That's what's up. Thank you, Theo. So listen, y'all. Listen, while the global pandemic is still rearing its ugly head, there seems to be some hope at the end of this dark tunnel. The world is getting vaccinated, but many are skeptical and for good reason, particularly the Black community. The controversy over whether to get vaxxed or not is getting heated. Is this push to a guilt trip to those who are opposed to the COVID vaccination a form of gaslighting? Let's talk about it. I'm going to shoot this over to Theo. Kick us off.
Oh, you're going to shoot it to me. Why would you do that? Why would you ever shoot it to me? This question first about, are they gaslighting us to make us feel guilty for not wanting to get vaccinated? Yes, they are. So let's break this down, okay? I said this before. You don't get to abuse the Black body for 400 years through medicine and then get suspicious, then get mad at us when we're suspicious of your medicine. It doesn't work like that, right? I made it this far through the pandemic, right? I made it this far, period. For some of the work that I do, I have to get tested. I've been tested twice for COVID-19, and I promise y'all I did not play it safe. I stuck that cotton swab way up my nose, and I keep coming back negative. And what I think is very important here is that, to me, the moral argument for having the choice to get or to not get the vaccine is the same moral argument that people have based on fundamentally that they have around abortion. If you don't want, the same party, the liberals, like a woman's right to choose is a woman's right to choose. Now you're a woman, Jice, so if I'm off base, you correct me, right? But to me, the moral argument is the same. Fundamentally, your body, your choice. Now people say, well, we've had mask mandates all over the place. So what's the difference? It's the difference between putting something on your body and putting something in your body. No matter what we say about the research that has gone into the vaccine, we simply don't know. Like, we don't know. We just don't know, right? Long-term side effects, we don't know. And we haven't had the chance to know. People say, well, we've been working on mRNA science for a long time. You have in terms of cancer treatments, but not in terms of vaccines when it comes to actual coronaviruses. We've been working on coronaviruses for a long time, and there hasn't been a vaccine yet for several reasons. One of the reasons is because the freaking animals kept dying in the challenge trials when they tried to develop it. Nobody wants to talk about that, but people's like, well, let's keep it scientifically based. Here's the science that I want folks to look at. 1976, you should go back and look at this news footage. There was the huge swine flu that was just about to destroy America, and the government pushed everybody, you have to get vaccinated, you have to get vaccinated, right? So people did, but there was so many injuries that people sued the vaccine makers for $4.5 billion in 1976 money, right? So for 10 years, the vaccine lobby worked as hard as they could on making themselves immune from prosecution. And in 1986, they succeeded with the Child Vaccine Injury Act, okay? Then that was reinforced by Supreme Court Act in 2011, meaning there's no other product on the market that if you use it and it hurts you, you can't sue them, but vaccines. So yeah, we have an experimental drug that is still untested in terms of long-term side effects. I don't know what kind of science you could do at warp speed, but given the history of the abuse of Black bodies via medicine, if we want to opt out, we'd appreciate the opportunity to do so. And if you want to get your vaccine, go right the fuck ahead.
Yeah. I mean, you said a lot in there. Before I give my opinion, anyone else got a thought? Lethal, why do you have that on today? What are you what are you doing today?
He's rolling with the theme. Oh, it's the theme.
That is.
Yeah.
That's what, look, when they started with the mask, that was the first thing I was concerned. I'm like, so can I wear my hat and my glasses and my mask? Is that gonna work when I walk in the store?
Yep.
No.
Hey, listen, people. Theo makes a very good point, and you know, my panel members here, my friends here, and people in my network, you've been hearing, or rather receiving from me, data and information that speaks to the history of why. And I see the Paris LaShawn has already spoken to it. This country's history as it pertains to experimentation on our Black bodies with great disregard for our Black lives. I'm not a proponent or an opponent of the vaccine, right? People, you're going to do what it is you want to do, regardless, right? But I am a proponent of people making informed decisions that are best for themselves and their families and their friends and the communities that they live in. I'm a huge proponent of that, right? And I am vehemently against any sort of gaslighting, any sort of guilt shaming, any sort of anti-vaccine shaming, or whatever the case you want to whatever you want to call it, right? I'm against all of that, right? I want people to make informed decisions, taking into consideration the history. And I'm not talking about American history. That shit is a subject that's taught in school. I'm talking about the unbought America's history. The stuff that we know is not introduced to us in school. It's the stuff that's handed down to us from our, as the brother Soul said in our very first episode, our qualified networks. You understand what I'm saying? That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, going to sources of information that we know don't have a history of being friendly to us as a people, as members of this society, as the engine and transmission of the vehicle of American economics, and knowing that they've been unfriendly to us. However, they provide information that causes us to take a pause, right? There is an article that we can go to. It's maintained in the National Institute of Health, National Medical Library. I shot that out to a couple of people. If you want to post it and share it, then do that. But it gives us a history of why our community specifically, thinks, believes, and knows that we need to be cautious.
What's your thoughts, H? You're muted.
Yeah, I don't know how juicy this episode is really going to get, because I think we're all like in super alignment around this. You know what I'm saying? So
it's gonna be.
You're going to have to tune in for another episode to get the TMZ's, on an arguing perspective. But, I want to say this. I just want to bring it into perspective. That Hitler and Nazi Germany, when they were studying how they were going to organize their society, when they were studying how they were going to marginalize and then move on to annihilate the Jews and the Gypsies of Germany, they studied the American system and how they treated Black people. That's just a fact. Now, if Germany went on to exterminate or to annihilate or to kill 6 million Jews, what in the hell is going on with the shaming of Black people that are putting a pause button on lining up to get vaccinated by the very same folks that less than 60, 70 years ago had our ancestors singing about strange fruit, right? Like, what has happened that has created this overwhelming trust, right? Like, where is it coming? Like, did I miss the Kumbaya session? Did I miss my check from, reparations? Like,
You didn't miss that neither.
I'm just so, and again, I am not shading people who have lied. My mother has gotten it. My brother has gotten it. There are people in my family that have gotten it, and I'm not shaming them for doing that. Do what you think is in your best interest. Yeah. However, please, before you start to formulate your mouth to talk about how can we talk about the reason why we should be mindful, what the history is, please understand that Black people as a collective here in the United States really do suffer from post-traumatic slave syndrome, and part of post-traumatic slave syndrome is amnesic. When it comes to our trauma. Like, trauma has happened and then we forget about it because we're in survival mode. And then we get on these interwebs and try to shame people who are like, yo, you're not going to run and get that shot, like you're putting us all in danger. Like, Black folks live in, like, what? We live in danger.
Yeah, we know that's true.
You know what I'm saying? Like, don't try to use that to scare us. You know what I'm saying? People growing up in Chicago, kids are growing up in New York, kids are growing up in South LA, and you're gonna lose. Come on, man.
It's dangerous, nigga.
It's dangerous. Listen, catching a cough is a lot less dangerous to Black people than living under 400 years of white domination. And so with that, I just would ask for people to be balanced at the very least and circumspect at best around how they draw the conclusions around who they're going to shame or push into a particular perspective about what Black people should be doing, bowing themselves. Because I'm gonna exit with this, and here's the truth. Y'all don't know what the fuck is in those needles. That's just simple. That is a matter of trust. That's all that's a matter of, is trust. And the question then becomes, and this is the whole discussion, we should change the frame of it. Has white medical America earned the trust of Black people in the United States?
That's a real question. You know what? That's a real ass question. I mean,
we got to take him to church on that one. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Theo. But no, real shit. That is a real question. It has our trust been earned, and I think that's something that in so many cases and in so many issues within the Black community, that one factor right there's not just has their trust been earned in the medical community, has their trust been earned anywhere, right? And I think, like, if we ask that question more often about almost every major facet of any part of society, we would be having a vastly different conversation.
Conversation.
Yeah, because that is the question, right? Like, has their trust been earned in educating us? Has their trust been earned in medicating us? Has their trust been earned in feeding us? Has their trust been earned in housing us? Has their trust been earned in providing jobs? That's a good question. I feel like we should write that down. I feel like we should have.
So here's the thing. Theo says this perfectly, and he's going to have to restate it again. He makes a statement where he says wherever capitalism is involved, right, you have to question, right, the motives and the intent, and like he says it a lot more succinctly than I'm saying.
No. It's basically whenever capitalism involved and conflict of interest, you cannot rule out conspiracy.
There it is.
Yep. No, that's good. So like, I haven't really said anything because, yeah, to your point, H, I think everyone here is kind of in agreement with what that looks like, right? I'm not getting a vaccination. I will say that. But also, you know, I think part of it is not just like whether or not you're going to get it. I think it's the hostility. And one of the things that bothers me, because there was a few things that I wanted to refer back to, Theo, that you said, you know, but let me start with the hostility. I think the hostility is the thing that is that makes me the most upset, right? And the propaganda campaign that's been launched specifically to address the Black community and there's multiple sides of that, right? When you have Black communities who are open to getting the vaccination, they're not even getting the vaccination, right? So like there's a disparity in the distribution of the vaccinations regardless. And then there is this chastisement of the Black community for feeling the way that we feel, whether it's coming from in mainstream media, whether it's coming from Black media, whether it's coming from the Black community or otherwise, there's a chastisement. And it's like this treating Black folks like we're children. You should do, you know, like, I mean, I try not to talk to my kids that way. Every now and again, the hair roll come out and all of, you know, but I feel that when I'm having those conversations, right, and it's like, you don't care about, you know, who you're hurting, and what about the old people? And I don't want you to hurt my mom. Like, ain't nobody trying to hurt your mom, bro. Like, that's nobody's intention, right? And I think that there is this belittling of Black intelligence to determine what we feel like is good for our bodies. And so I can't remember if it was H or Lethal who said, you know, about making informed decisions. And I think that's one of the most important things, because even when it comes to this vaccination, I'm not even sure if this is really just a Black issue, because white folks get injured by vaccinations and can't go and sue the vaccine companies. And I think when they did that, that's when we should have all been weary of vaccinations. As soon as you made a company, or as soon as you made the producer of this not liable, but also made it a requirement in some cases for work, a lot of cases for school, and so on and so forth, but you didn't allow for us to sue for injury, right? I think that there's a big place of concern. So for me,
where's the hostility towards the medical companies for setting it up so that they can't be sued? Like, where's
people who talk about that get painted as conspiracy theorists. You're crazy. You're going against the grain, right? And I don't listen to all the conspiracy theorists, but I start listening to folks every now and again, like, because when so much of mainstream media is against you, I want to know what you're.
You get curious, like,
yeah. But what I'm saying is that what's the conspiracy theory in asking the question, why can't we sue pharmaceutical companies, right? If my child is injured from taking that, like, that's no conspiracy theory. You can't do it. So, like, right, like, where's the rabbit in the hat shit? There's nothing there. It's a fact. Go research it. So where's the? But and here's the point here, Jice. And I'm gonna refer back to Nazi Germany again. The question, and I lived in Ghana for 10 years, and I had to think about this question too. What did the German government have to do in order to make the German populace sedated enough, or put the German populace in a position enough in order to allow the rounding up of their neighbors, their friends, their work colleagues? What allowed for that? And what allowed for that was fear.
Yes.
And the hostility, and creating an environment of fear. And if you listen to people who are talking about the importance of getting vaccinated, it is a fear-based argument. And that's exactly how the society and the masters of society control the populace and the sheeple, is through fear. And that's not to say, again, that you should or should not get the vaccination. It's just to say the environment that has been created to make that decision is far from being fair, balanced, informational, historical, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
And this is, I just want to say that There's one more enemy at the gates that nobody wants to discuss because not enough people know about this enemy to discuss it. So today, Bloomberg reported that New York is rolling out vaccine passports. They're digital and they look like, those little barcodes. You know what I mean? That's what they look like. It's on your phone. Vaccine passports have gone digital now, right? Well, there's a little issue that I'm going to start preaching this because people really have to understand this. And you know this is here, but you probably haven't put the words to it. It's called surveillance capitalism. Surveillance capitalism is a huge thing. If you really study surveillance capitalism, those who are in it say that data is the new gold. Data is the new gold. So, and everybody's seen this. You mentioned Applebee's, and Applebee's comes up on your freaking Instagram suggestions. Applebee's comes up on your freaking YouTube suggestions because these devices are listening to us, right? Our data is unprotected largely. Largely, we've signed it away on those little waivers that take too fucking long to read all of it because it's all in legalese, right?
You wouldn't understand if you read it anyway.
Right. The data is bought, sold, swapped, and manipulated. And the Cambridge Analytica scandal where Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, and everybody allowed people's specific voting habits to be sold to the highest bidder, which was manipulated by Steve Bannon in the Trump camp to amplify Trump's reach. None of that has been stopped. None of it's been mitigated. Now, part of that data will be your vaccine records. What are they going to do with it? The very politicians that we would appeal to this, the local politicians that we know, they're not even in control of it. Their data is being sold, swapped, bought, and traded, manipulated as well, because nobody's really talking about this monster at the gates. But the fact is that for the highest bidder, your employer could buy it. They could freaking figure it out. They could copy it, and they could figure, okay, we can find this person's whole pattern of health, behavior, you name it, things that are supposed to be private. That's what Edward Snowden got busted for when he told the truth about what the NSA was doing. And so now we have to be mindful that the data is not just our habits, but it's now what's beneath our skin. And if we allow digital vaccine passports and these things to coerce us into getting vaccines, our data is fully up for grabs on the internet when it comes to corporate capitalism. You don't know who's going to get it and what the fuck they're going to do with it.
Well, and there's another layer to that, really, and it's probably the layer that preceded that data mining, is the fact that you have, unlimited amount of money being poured into policy and legislation by big corporations, right? So big corporations get to buy Congress, basically, and pass the type of laws that they want to have, and you couple that spending, like they would absolutely not be spending billions and billions of dollars lobbying to have certain laws and regulations passed, which keep widening these gaps that we're seeing. And then on top of that, now you equip them with all of your data, right? So I think that's important for us to recognize in this free country that we live in.
So I want to read an excerpt from an article that I sent out and I shared with you all before, I think earlier today. This is the director, an excerpt from a news conference given by the director of the Illinois Department of Public Health. And what she goes on to say is,
are you on your phone, or can you drop it in the chat and I'll put it up for people who want to look at it?
I'm on my phone, but okay. I'm reading from my phone. So it says here, and I want people to really think about this and ask yourselves, does this make sense? Okay. Here's what she says, and I'm giving a direct quote. If you were in hospice and had already been given a few weeks to live, and then you also were found to have COVID, that would be counted as a COVID death. It means technically, even if you died of a clear alternate cause, but you had COVID at the same time, it's still listed as a COVID death. So everyone who's listed as a COVID death doesn't mean that that was the cause of death, but they had COVID at the time of death. And this is Dr.
Burks,
whatever her name is. And so here's the question here's the thought that I threw out after that, right? So what she's saying is even though you did not die from COVID, but you had COVID at the time of death, your death is counted as a COVID death. How do you count a person's death as something that that is not it, right?
Right.
This is, and if you're watching the trial of the police officer who killed George Floyd, right? This is akin to, you know, how we all saw how George Floyd was killed. We saw it with our own eyes, right? But the defense says it wasn't the cop's knee and weight cutting off air to his lungs and oxygen to his brain. It was George Floyd's drug addiction, hypertension, and the fentanyl in his system that killed him. So here's what I said. If we don't accept the latter being what happened, what we're told was the cause of death for George Floyd, then there's no way we should be able to accept the former, which is you didn't die from COVID, but you had COVID, but we're going to count your death from something else as COVID.
This is a huge thing. I mean, look, Lethal, you nailed it, because the death toll is what creates the urgency for the vaccine.
Exactly.
And if you have
the policy that overrides our rights.
Right. And so
in that place.
One of the things that people say is if you resist the vaccine, 500,000 people died. Did they? And I first found out about this because I don't know if she's watching, but my homegirl, Lene Turner, was about to go to court with the coroner for literally the thing you just mentioned. Her grandfather was in hospice. He was in hospice. They already knew he was going to die. And then because he tested positive, not for COVID, the virus, but COVID antibodies, which means that he might have already had it, beat it, and that's not what killed him. His death was counted as a COVID death. Not only that, but Dr. Birx even said, because of the way that different companies got into the testing game, up to 50% of the positive tests, this is Dr. Birx talking, could be wrong. So now you have a manipulated death toll for people who may not have died of COVID and may not have even had it if the test was wrong. There was a governor who tested positive and then tested negative, and everybody was, what the fuck is going on? So this is one of those things that I don't have to go to InfoWars, and I don't have to go to the back channels of a conspiracy site. I got this right off of MSNBC and CNN. The people who you told me to talk to, right? When I tell people, you know, the vaccine doesn't stop transmission of the virus. Oh, that's not scientific. Where'd you get that from? Some Alex Jones website? No, I got that from Dr. Fauci. That's like Dr. Fauci told us, right? Because the question that was asked of Dr. Fauci was, if I put on, like, if I get the vaccine, do I have to still wear a mask? And Dr. Fauci explained these vaccines prevent the worst outcomes of COVID-19. But if you have COVID-19, you still can transmit it to somebody if you've got it, even if you've gotten the vaccine, which means that everybody's like, I'm getting this to protect my community. Fauci himself told you that that's not what happens. So why you mad at me, bro? And I think that the questions, this is what was so alarming to me when I started pushing back, right? Because the label of anti-vaxxer, unscientific got thrown on me so heavy. And I said, so here's what I need y'all to understand. Y'all follow me for my critical thinking ability. You follow me for that. People got on my page because I dissected and dismantled the fuckery. Nothing changed about me. Something changed about you niggas. You got scared. And because you got scared, you didn't want me to freaking challenge what ultimately started to look like a cult. Like my partner and them started calling it COVID church, nigga. And because it felt the same way. The same questions I asked when I was in the church. I asked questions and I asked them aggressively and offensively, but I asked them clearly. I do my research, and that certainly wasn't okay. And I'm telling you right now that these vaccine passports are leveraging us into a situation where we don't know what the outcome is going to be. And I tell people I'm part of the control group. I'm part of the niggas who didn't get it, so we can compare it. That's who I am.
I just want to let y'all know that YouTube is not letting us post these links.
It isn't. This is what I'm saying. Like they're fully censoring open debate.
But you know what though? Jice? This goes back to when I forgot, and I need to step back a second, because you, Shay, Sister Vicky Dillard, the Mother Queen, and the other brothers this past weekend made a very good case for why we need independent Black media that is moral, that has integrity, and is competent. And this is why the very fact that there's a platform that won't even allow information to be put up that would cause people to be able to ask more intelligent and informed questions should raise some hairs on the back of your neck, because it does for me. Because all we're talking about is providing people with information that allows them to make more informed and reasoned decisions for themselves. Where is the harm in that?
So here's the thing. Here's the harm in that. And I want us to remember when they first started rolling out, if we're going to look at this through a 7 generations lens.
Yeah.
It was so important to the system to get Black people on board the vaccination train.
That's real
If
shit.
you remember the pictures, the images, the first Black nurse that they showed taking it,
Right.
they needed Black, which is an indication to Black people. Let's scratch all the politics and everything that we're talking about. But from a 7 generation lens, if Black people ever doubt that they are still the crux and the miner's canary of how this system moves, then you only need to look at how much they advertised and they pushed and they drove. Look at Black people are taking this too, because they knew what we should know, and what Lethal's talking about in regards to what happened this weekend, and Jice and CTN and Brother Jeff and these.
Yes.
They knew if Black people collectively got together and said, listen, this ain't no shit we're going to really rock with, that it would have completely destroyed one of the most powerful lobbying organizations in the world and completely undermined their bottom line when it came to, because let's be clear, this is a profit-making business. This is why I doubt there will be a cure. We're going to see one thing happen after. How many variations have we got?
Right. We got 6 of them now, bro.
About 5 or 6.
Yeah, dog.
So
we got one from India now. Everybody's afraid
they're
of.
They're about to solve this shit. They're not about to solve this shit because what did Chris Rock say? The money is in the comeback. The money is, like any crack dealer knows, the money is in the comeback. That's why you double up 2 for 20. That's what that is. The money's in the comeback, baby. It's not in the, in the write-off. And so I just want Black people, like Theo said, to think about this critically, right? Think about it critically. You don't have to believe me. You don't have to believe Lethal. You don't have to believe Theo, even though it's hard to not believe them once they start rolling. Like Lethal's been rolling out, I think I got about 8 posts in my damn text message, because when Lethal comes with some shit, y'all need to be clear out there. Homeboy is coming with facts. Like Lethal's just not coming about how he rolled on the side of the bed, how he feel about it that day. Like he's coming with well-researched facts, which is what I love about him and the way that he brings forward the message. Where we need to inject critical thinking into our everyday belief systems, and we need to really question and recognize our power in being able. If we give the thumbs up on some shit, you got the thumbs up. But if we put the thumbs down on that shit, this system is in trouble.
That is a huge point. So I have to say that this last election cycle let me know the moral weight that Black people have, specifically Black women. Like the moral weight of Black people, specifically Black women, is huge, because we who have been wronged the most historically, you know what I'm saying, aside from those who've been genocided, who can't even, like, they don't even have the numbers to speak for themselves with the same gravitas, which is another problem. But for those who are darker than blue, the descendants of the enslaved, we have this power of our culture, this soft power that nobody's been able to remove from us. Like like even when other minorities outnumber us, the moral gravity that Black people have is still ours. You know what I'm saying? And it's crazy, but I've seen it. And getting us on board with this, I just have to second that motion. It was so crucial because of the fact that people quietly look to us to see what's popping. Not only when it comes to trends, but like it's like literally to be on the right side of history. So they had to get us on their side of history in order to write the history the way that they wanted to. Here's what I've seen though, brother. This manipulation, this censoring, because I'm telling you right now, I put this on my page. My algorithm should be way passing this down the line, and it's not right now. It's not. This censorship of this shit is powerful, bro. And what I'll say is that you can manipulate all you want to, but it doesn't change what is. It just doesn't change what it is. And in time, brothers and sisters, in time, I've lived long enough now. I've been on this planet on June 11th, I've been here for 40 years. I've seen the cycle come back around, and no matter what
that's plug, bro. That's a weak ass plug for your birthday. You trying to get gifts and shit.
I'm trying to get all the gifts, bro. I got a baby to feed. Y'all know I'm suffering financially. So anyway, but the fact is that the truth pressed to earth will still rise in time, bro. You know what I'm saying? So go ahead, Google and Facebook and all you fucking scaredy cat programmers, manipulate. But we warned you, and it is my duty to warn. I shine the light. It's your fault if you turn away.
Yeah, I think the censorship is something that we should be concerned about. Like, absolutely, the false information. Like, false information gets out there, right? And I think that's important. Like, I think that's very important. But also, the censorship means that they have a very strong grip on the mainstream narrative that gets pushed. All the way to the point. Matter of fact, I was over here trying to, push out stuff about Black capital today, and my posts are rejected, right? So it's like they're making you jump through these hoops thinking about the data post that what you were just saying with regard to the data, Theo, and it's like the ability. I mean, even so, just to post something social, political, anything like that, you have to do verification, right? So like I have to send Facebook a copy of my ID or my passport just to post about Black capital.
And this is
just to advertise about a conference to talk about capital in the Black community. That's political. That's a social issue. So they are forcing you to identify yourself, right? And to identify yourself, you have to send them a copy of your ID, verify your address, send them a copy of your passport, one or the other, in order to post an ad about something as simple as the Black community accessing money. So here's the thing around that censorship, right? Like that censorship is powerful because what it's really saying is everything dealing with the fucking Black community is a social issue. So now how many Black activists have to submit their information in order to use these whack ass social platforms in order to get out our information because they won't even let us pay for it. You can't even pay for an ad until you submit your information across these platforms. Everything dealing with the Black community is a social issue.
Right.
So here's the thing about it. And I'm really speaking to my people on this one. There's a saying that the road to freedom is very seldom traveled by the masses. And there's a reason why our ancestors make that statement. It's because in order to allow all the bullshit to miss you, to withstand the social pressures of conforming to what is popular of the day, right? We get to understand just a glimpse of what people like Harriet Tubman had to go through when she was talking about go north. When we look at that today, we think, oh, Black folks was excited to hear that message. Nah, bruh. When 9 out of 10 Black people heard Harriet Tubman talking. What they told her was to shut the fuck up because she was going to get everybody killed. So it is only that small percentage of Black folks that were willing to make and go against the popular narrative of the day, which there is a pathway to freedom that is not popularized, that is not on, Viacom, it's not on Instagram, there's a way to travel through this world. There is a way that we should move that is not popular. And in order to have that shit miss you, you have to be so strong in mind and in spirit to withstand the social pressure of not conforming. And let's be very honest right now. Most people that we know are not strong enough not to buckle under the pressure of conforming to the message of the Roman Empire. And that is just the facts of it. But our ancestors told us that the road to freedom would be not traveled by the masses. And now we're getting evidence of exactly the wisdom of that proverb.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say this because to just piggyback on that, so our good sister Vicky Diller was on here this past weekend. So for the rest of y'all, I'm gonna just make my selfish plug of please go and donate to our fundraiser for the Black Media Coalition. But Vicky just talked about this in terms of how people see activism, right? And you think that your activism is going out and turning over some cars and making a ruckus in the middle of the streets. And to her point, that's such a small portion of what it looks like, because the battle that is happening right now in just taking vaccinations, right? Just taking vaccinations. The battle is what's happening in legislation. Will legislation come out that requires you to have a vaccination in order to move around? Or will it not? That's not going to be handled out there in the streets. That's going to be handled by Black folks who know what is going on and who are talking to their legislators and who are looking at what the laws are and who are going in and advocating for what's necessary for our communities. And some of that, the loud piece, the piece that the news might pick up, might be out there in the streets, but the real shit is happening behind the scenes. So, part of the reason why this panel right here was curated the way this panel was curated is because nobody on here is a fucking YouTuber. Maybe kind of Theo a little bit, but not really. Like nobody on here
like that, yo.
Nobody here is a YouTuber, right? Like before we started this, everybody is doing something in the background. Every single person on this panel has something real going on in the background as to how we address and change the Black community. And then we just want to come and talk about it because Black media fucking matters, right? So it's like, when what you're saying to me resonates so deeply because the work it's harder than what I think most of us get. Like nobody is coming up here just to talk. Matter of fact, we don't even have time to plan out all of our sessions to come on here, right? Because everybody's doing the work. So it's like when I'm hearing,
right. And so
it's real. Go ahead, Theo. I'm sorry.
Let me just say, so I got to say this again because people jump down my neck, but I'm going to say it because it needs to be said. We're working on a piece of legislation right now called CINDA, the COVID Immunization Non-Discrimination Act. And what that means is that we want to make vaccine passports and anything like it illegal here in the state of Colorado. If anybody in another place wants to see the language, I will happily send it to you and you can make your own version of it. We cobble this together from legislative pieces from across the country as well. But I think New York is going to need CINDA because New York is going to do this vaccine passport thing. And what they're going to find is that, lo and behold, there's discrimination once again. If Black people are getting vaccinated at a third of the rate that white people are, that means that access will be denied to Black people because of these fucking vaccine passports. I hate to be the prophet, but I just know history. So CINDA is just a legislation that says, you can't discriminate against me regardless. Like there could be some people who are like hella anti-vax and be like, don't come in here if you've been vaxxed. We don't want that either. You see what I'm saying? Nobody's saying don't get vaccinated if that's what the fuck you want to do. get that shit in your arm, but don't talk to me about shit if I don't want it. And don't stop me from going anywhere. Don't stop me from doing no business. I want to be able to travel and fly. I have to be able to do that, in fact, in order to make a living. And the same party that is about a woman's right to choose is not on board with it. It's the most weirdest thing I've ever seen, right? Literally, the people who will stand up and hold signs about bodily sovereignty of a woman will not stand behind legislation that says bodily sovereignty for everybody. Because look, I just want to say this one last thing before you hop in, Jice. These motherfuckers have taken too much from us as it is. If you look at the freaking world before 9/11, you would never think that it would be okay for a stranger to rub your dick every time you fly, but that's what happens to me. You never think that was okay, right? You would never think that it would be okay for somebody to listen into all your conversations and digitally advertise to you without you being able to do anything about it. You never think that that would be okay. That your fucking bastard can look at through your webcam, admittedly. Now we think it's regular. We've gotten too accustomed to too much shit, and it has stopped at the skin surface. If we let this shit go, it's gonna go beneath it, and then after that, you got nothing, bro. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. And I don't think that COVID should be the reason why we let this shit, like, look at what you've gotten accustomed to already and stop this shit right here at the skin surface. Don't let them do this shit. That's what I feel.
It's some folks are saying that they're getting kicked off the live stream too. And I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt it, because this isn't the type of messaging that they want. And they definitely don't want Black folks to be having an enlightened conversation.
Yeah,
around
if we was talking about Nas X, we'd be fine.
We'd be just fine. That part.
So here's the thing I want our people to understand and take away, right? Going back to Theo's point, and I think Soul hitting on it as well, with regards to they're needing our involvement or approval for this to take off, right? There is a reason why Jeff Bezos, we all know who he is, Amazon, right? Richest man in the world, I guess. I don't know. Projected to be the first trillionaire, right? I debate that shit because Massa Musa was a beast. But and individuals like Michael Bloomberg, you know, these people are billionaires, right? And the summer of 2020, what we saw was these individuals taking steps to dump and fund and push exorbitant amounts of money into our communities, to our people, our HBCUs, and they showed all this great, you know, economic love and support, right, through their statements. If anyone out there thinks that was done because these people have some sort of emotional affinity towards our community, and it wasn't done for the simple fact that there's money to be made in getting us on board with certain things that they want to do in this society, then this bridge right here that's over my shoulder, I want to sell you that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So listen, y'all, I'm not Shay. So let me try and pull us into our mindset moment. Before we pull into the mindset moment, I want to thank y'all all for tuning in. Absolutely. Please go ahead, hit the subscribe button if you have not. Hit the bell so you know when we're coming back on. Also, hit the thumbs up, right? And hit us with some super chats, because we are raising $50,000 for Black media. This is a part of the Black Media Coalition, which means it's not just CTN, although it's also CTN. It ain't just CTN. We have 5 other platforms that we're looking to raise with us. And we are always looking to add to the collective, because Black media does matter. We know on these platforms that we are on and going across that these are not owned by us, right? But we're here pushing out what we can until we can build our own. And so unfortunately for us, building our own is going to have to come from us. So go ahead and make sure that you are contributing to that. I just dropped the link inside of the description box if you are on Facebook or on YouTube, but I want to encourage you to go over to YouTube and make sure that you subscribe, The other thing is we do have this coming up, and I want to make sure I talk about this because, as I said, they won't let me promote it. So here we go. I need y'all to share this out. We have Black Capital coming. This is featuring Kwame Anku of Black Star Fund. Let me just tell y'all something. We already know that the Black community lacks access to capital. We have seen that time and time again throughout this entire pandemic, but this is an issue that is extended far past this, okay? And so we want to talk about not only our history of accessing capital, how that's put us in the position that we are in today, but more importantly, where do we need to go and how should we be thinking? What things are happening now that can allow us to get a foothold and start to close this wealth chasm, all right? We have 4 breakout sessions. We're going to be talking about investment and venture. We're going to be talking about crowdfunding. We're going to be talking about banking and lending. And we're also going to be talking about philanthropy and sponsorship. So no matter where you're sitting, this is a space for you to come in and learn more about how to access capital for your Black business. So I'm going to drop that link also in the chat. Go ahead and get signed up. It is for free, because we've worked to get it there, all right? So make sure that you share that out. Please get signed up. That is April the 17th. So let's hit us with this mindset moment. I'm going to start with you, H. What do we need to be thinking about if we're thinking about our 7 generations?
First thing I want to say, the fact that you're offering that conference for free, that's the type of shit that in white communities would be a $450, $500, $700 ticket straight up. Kofi Anku is my dude. If you don't know who he is, Google him, Google his family and what they've done. His brother has built a whole Wakanda village in Ghana. So the fact that you're doing that is just out of pure love. You're very modest, Jice. That's fucking dope, sis, that you're giving it for free. So thank you. That's just tremendous. You know, the former president, Thabo Mbeki, when he was the president of South Africa, was slammed by the international community when the AIDS pandemic was taking place and it was ravaging South Africa, because he made this statement here. He said that South Africa didn't have an AIDS problem, they have a poverty problem. And what he meant by that is the way that you fend off any illness is through proper nutrition, is from eating fresh fruits, fresh vegetables, clean drinking water. And most Black people in South Africa, because of the system that exists there then and today, apartheid system, didn't allow for the masses of Black people to have access to those things. I say that to say to my Black indigenous folks, the mindset moment here is to take care of your temple. Drink water, get it the vitamins that it needs, get it whatever, because a lot of the, follow Theo's direction, because everything will come down to how strong your temple and your immune system is. And to his point, your immune system has to drop before you are even susceptible to the diseases to come in to take it over. But if you have a strong immune system, you can get shot with you can be around the virus and withstand it, because that's what your immune system is for. But we have weak immune systems because we're drinking 40 ounces, we smoking blunts, we drinking grape drink instead of grape juice. We doing all this, you know.
That's the grape drink.
Yeah, the grape drink. It's purple.
You might as well say red Kool-Aid.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. It's red, right? And so what I want people and for Black people to do is to really to understand that a healthy diet is one of the most revolutionary acts that you can engage in order to protect your temple.
Lethal, hit us.
So I'm glad that that Soul went that route, because what we're talking about is the human hierarchy of needs, right? And at the bottom, we're talking about air, talking about water, food, shelter, sleep, clothing, reproduction, right? Those are our psychological needs. And you step up above that and you come to the safety needs, where we're talking about personal security, employment, resources, health, property, right? there's been many a time during this podcast where we have spoken to the need, necessity for people in our community to understand that in order for situations to actually change, it's going to come down to some personal decisions that they're going to have to make, number one. And one of those personal decisions is going to have to be a willingness to sacrifice and make some sacrifices, you know, because as Theo has rightly stated a couple of times in this podcast now, you can't even have a text conversation or verbal conversation on your own goddamn phone that you paid for without then receiving some sort of types of advertisements based off of some sort of trigger or keyword that you said in what you thought was a private conversation.
Right.
Understand that. And it's not going to get any better. Why? Because data is the new gold. That is a fact. You understand what I'm saying? And so we have to understand as a people that it is in our best interest to not be just trendy followers. You know, we're not talking about a Cardi B song. We're not talking about, you know, a new release of some sort of lingerie or makeup shit from Beyonce or Rihanna. You understand what I'm saying? You're talking about your life and the lives of your children and grandchildren and generations to come. You know, I'm from Brooklyn. You understand what I'm saying? And yo, I understand that if somebody walks up on me and punches me in my face, whether I want to be in a fight with them or not, I'm in a fucking fight. And I'm going to fight. So whether you think, feel, believe, or know whether or not that we are in dire straits, a dire situation where we're in a war for our very survival, for our very human needs, for our unalienable rights to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, we are in that war. We are in a fight for it. Period. Plain and simple. And you're either going to fight or you're going to get your ass kicked. But here's the problem. From a 7th generational perspective, if you allow your ass to get kicked today, you may not have generations coming behind you to get their asses kicked. Just think about that.
Thank you, Theo.
Okay. I just want to say, support the Cinder legislation. Inbox me if you. They're even suppressing the Google search for that.
I was expecting you drop it in the link so I can.
Yeah, I'm literally looking for it in all of my stuff, and it's just. But know that it's out there. And once again, it's the COVID Immunization Non-Discrimination Act. Or write a law like that and try to pass it where you're from. It's the crazy.
The COVID vaccination.
The COVID Immunization Non-Discrimination Act. Me and a good partner, Phil Silverman, worked on it. And, you know, only, it seems, at least in legislative bodies concerned, Republicans is backing it. Only Republicans. They're like, some of these are some Trumpy ass folks. And I told them, if we talk about
they don't want to have to take the vaccine either.
Right. They don't want to take. And I was like, look, you Trumpy people, we ain't going to get along with nothing else. But for this, we going to get along. And this is important enough that I'll squash beef with you for right now in order to get this thing passed, okay?
Phil said he posted it on Facebook.
All right, cool. That's what's up. Phil, cool, man. He been to Shop Talk a couple times. Real good cat. And I just want y'all to know, like, we have a situation that's dire because we didn't stand up to fight before, and now the fight then got bigger. I don't want the commercial coming out like, did you receive the COVID-19 vaccine from Moderna? You may be entitled to compensation. Call now, right? That's on its way, man. Did you receive the Pfizer vaccine of the first wave? Have you grown a third hand out of your neck? Call now, right? How many commercials like that have we seen? How many commercials like that have we seen? I've lost one person to COVID-19. I've lost 2 people to medical mistakes, taking the medicine as directed, right? I'm going to end my statement with the statement made from our good brother Soul. What has the white medical establishment done to earn the trust of Black folks? What have you done for me lately? What have you done for me lately?
Is that what you, sir?
Right? What have they done to earn our trust? If the answer is a whole pile of jack shit, then don't ever question me for questioning them. You know what I'm saying?
Change today.
And that's what I'm saying. So send their legislation, look it up. And from this point on, we've let them get right to our freaking skin. Don't let them get beneath it. If I don't want the vaccine, you want the vaccine, take it. Fuck you for trying to get me to take it.
Hey, Jice, real quick before you go. Hey, to Theo's point, to answer that question, read the article that's in the National Institute of Health Medical Library. It provides you with the answers, but what the hell they've done. Yeah, Sister Jice, sorry about that.
Dang, see, look, y'all, we need to be having some of these links dropped so that y'all can like dig into what this looks like. But just know this is an informed panel, you know, and that's real. Like nobody wants to just talk a bunch of conspiracies and other things like that. We want to talk about what's real because this information is important to our community. And some of these conspiracies ain't really conspiracies.
They're not conspiracies, bro.
There's that. But, you know, my mindset, I do want to echo something that Soul said about, you know, what he said about taking care of our bodies. I would say for me, you know, my mindset moment of this, as we get ready to close out, is really just to, you know, follow the money, right? I would say when I first had, and I'll close out with this kind of, you know, story about what's changed a lot of my viewpoints with regard to how medicine is distributed in this country, and not knowing that I was a victim of some of these things until I got informed, right? When I had my oldest daughter, I had an emergency C-section. I had a doctor who didn't listen to me. I was knocked out before I had any say-so over what happened to my daughter. So basically, when I got to her, whatever happened had already happened because I was, you know, put to sleep for several hours after my emergency C-section. And when I, you know, 10 years later, I had my other 2 children. And when that got me, you know, into the process of asking questions. I'm 10 years older. I'm a little wiser. And also I had an informed community around me that began to give me information, not to influence my thought, but simply said, here's the pros, here's the cons, here's the information, you look it up. And so back to Lethal's original point of being informed, I think people need to be informed. If you are fearful, then do what you need to do to quell your fear. If you are not fearful, right on, keep living. Right. But I say that information helps to quell fear. And that's in every space. As an entrepreneur, what allows me to get up every day and do what I do without safety of a 9-to-5 job is I have information. Right. And every decision that I look to make, as often as possible, I make those decisions with peace in my heart and not a lot of fear, because I equip myself with knowledge and with information. And so, you know, my first look at vaccinations was really around the Hep B vaccination. And I won't go too deep, but to say hepatitis B don't just come from passing by somebody or bumping into somebody, right? It's going to come through a sexually transmitted disease, or it's going to come through blood. So I asked, why are they giving Hep B vaccinations on day 1 of a brand new baby being born into this world? Day 1, your baby don't leave the hospital without a Hep B vaccination.
Mine did, because I was like, fuck that.
Well, yeah, I said the same thing. But I that was the first place that I questioned that. I wanted to know, why would you need to vaccinate a day 1 old baby with the Hep B vaccination? Was somebody about to sexually, rape my baby? Or were you going to give tainted blood in a blood transfusion? Like, help me understand why this was important. I had not one doctor be able to answer that question for me. It's just what they do. And that was the end of that. So my children are 5 now and 4, or almost 4. And there's nothing that I let be done just because that's what they do. Nothing. Because that's what they do. I need to know why they do those things. And I think we need to understand the same way that they're talking about herd immunity and things of that sort, right? And what it looks like to live inside of a group and what it looks like to live inside of a community is that nothing is done by accident. Not one thing this country does is done by happenstance or accident. So if they are doing it, there is a money trail and there is a reason. And you should figure out how you feel about that before you allow something to be done to you. And you should figure out how to inform yourself and equip yourself so you can make sound decisions and feel good or okay, at least, about the decisions that you make and the consequences of those actions. So that's my mindset moment. So we don't have Shay here to wrap us up how she normally does, so eloquently and so beautifully, but y'all got me, and I'm going to say thank you for tuning in to another episode of 7 Generations Black. We will be back next Tuesday, same great time. That is 4 p.m. Mountain. That is 6 p.m. Eastern. Make sure that you tune in. And what'd she say? Keep what'd she say?
Keep hustling for your last name.
There we go. Keep hustling for your 7 Generations Black, y'all. Until next time. Peace.